Here are my 5 favorite non-fiction books. The first is The 17 Traditions by Ralph Nader. In this book, Nader discusses the values that he was brought up with when he was a kid. Values like civic engagement. I don't know if I'll ever have kids, but if I do, I'll definitely use this book as a guide on how to raise them. Second is Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. Anne Frank wrote this book while hanging out in an attic for something like 2 years. In spite of the difficult circumstances in which she lived, she talks about herself, her family, her friends, and her romantic interests in a way that doesn't seem significantly different from what you might hear from a teenager living in any other time or circumstances. The biggest things that really stand out about Anne Frank as a person is her intelligence and her candor. The third is The Long Hard Road Outta Hell by Marilyn Manson and Neil Strauss. This is Manson's autobiography. He tells you the story of how he got his band together, how he recorded his first few albums, and all of his wacky backstage hijinks. It's a really fun read, both because it's weird and because it's surprisingly funny. Fourth is On Writing by Stephen King. This is Stephen King's memoir. I'm not a big fan of Stephen King's novels, but this is nonetheless one of my favorite books. He tells a few stories about his childhood, he explains how he first got published, and most importantly, he gives some great advice about how to be a good writer. And the fifth book is Drop Dead Healthy by A.J. Jacobs. A.J. Jacobs, for those who aren't familiar, does this thing where he will adopt these very extreme lifestyles for a period of time, just to find out what they're like. In a previous book, he tries to follow every rule in the Bible for a year, and in this one, he tries to become the healthiest person in the world. What's great about this book is that he takes a very careful and critical look at all of the so-called healthy foods and fads out there, and makes an effort to find out which ones are bullshit and which ones are actually good for you. So those are my 5 favorite non-fiction books.